The Nasdaq was the market which stood out today. Here I have the NQ futures loaded on my charts with our aggressive volatility box models loaded on. I have all 5 models right here, and if you think of this as a line graph, the Nasdaq was right here on the aggressive volatility models. Now the reason the Nasdaq stood out is because the S&P and the Dow were both on their doomsday conservative models. In fact, the Dow had even broken outside of this. So if you had to rank the volatility that we saw in the markets today, the Nasdaq had the least volatility out of the major index markets. If we take a look at this 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific hour, inside of the Nasdaq with our aggressive models, we can still see price action chopping inside of our cyan entry lines. If I switch instead to, say, the S&P 500, you should notice that price very clearly breaks through the clouds right here. That gives you an idea of the additional volatility we're seeing inside of the S&P. We're breaking outside of our aggressive models. In fact, we broke outside of the aggressive, our doomsday aggressive, our conservative, and we finally ended up on the doomsday conservative models with the volatility that we saw in this hour. So that gives you an idea of just how much greater the volatility was in the S&P compared to the Nasdaq. Same idea with the Dow here as well. If I switch over to a chart of the Dow even goes shortly outside of our volatility box clouds there. So the Dow was the most volatile, the S&P 500 the second most, and the Nasdaq was the least volatile out of our 3 major index markets. Now at the same time that the sell-off was taking place, we had some stocks which gave us opportunities as well. If I pull up our live scanner, 2 stocks which stood out were Meta, where we had a conservative long side entry. We can see that right here. Let me take a better color. Conservative long for Meta, where price action breached our conservative volatility box models for a long side entry. And another one which stood out was NVDA. If I show you that one on the scanner as well, same idea, conservative long. If we take a look at these on the charts, let's look at Meta first. I have the aggressive volatility box and the conservative models loaded on here. Meta went into the conservative volatility models, so we had that part of our setup being met. We even had all of the makings of our momentum reversal setup, all the way from the wedges to our edge signal confirmation to the momentum crossing here. We had a nice entry inside of Meta as well, where price action bounced around for just a little bit before starting to get going in the direction of the trend, going all the way to the aggressive volatility box's short side zones. So that gives you an idea of how strong that bounce was in Meta. We went all the way to the short side entry, or getting close to it, for our aggressive models. So a really nice long side setup in Meta there. If we take a look at NVIDIA had a little bit more volatility than Meta as well. We can see we had the wedges plotting here, along with right here as well. We had the edge signal confirmation along with the momentum cross finally taking place one more time in that 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific hour. So while the S&P and the Dow futures both had more volatility compared to the Nasdaq, we can still find stocks inside of the Nasdaq, or at least heavily weighted stocks, where we had volatility setups for those of you that are more stock and options traders instead of futures traders. So you have a few different options to pick and choose from. The Nasdaq futures, one more time, were the least volatile out of our 3 major index markets. The S&P was second most volatile, but really we had to adjust to the volatility that we saw in this 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. hour, which didn't seem to exist inside of the Nasdaq. The Dow here, out of the bunch, was the most volatile, and we can even see that with how the aggressive models look here. In fact, we had to adjust to our volatility, where the Dow broke even outside of its doomsday conservative models by just a little bit. So you can pick and choose based off of if you like to trade futures or stocks, or even use both of them together alongside the live scanner to get a good idea of where that volatility you're seeing in the futures market is translating to with stocks. Alright, I hope you found this video useful. Take care everyone, good luck trading, and I'll see you in our next update.